You've probably heard stories of farmers raising chickens or ducks to make a living. But what if a national leader asked his people to raise peacocks? That's exactly what President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso is doing. And the world doesn't know whether to laugh, applaud, or dig deeper into his motives. Why would any president encourage rural families to raise one of the most majestic, delicate birds on earth? This isn't just about feathers and beauty. It's not just about creating a rare farming trend in the heart of Africa. President Traoré's call for peacock farming is raising eyebrows across continents, because behind the dazzling feathers lies something far more profound: a blueprint to fight poverty, create jobs, and reshape the national image of Burkina Faso in the eyes of the world. Some are calling it genius. Others see it as a distraction from deeper issues. But here's what's undeniable. Peacock feathers are fetching thousands of dollars in international markets. Their eggs are considered a rare delicacy, often selling between $100 and $200 each. And the meat? It's a symbol of power and prestige, served secretly in royal-style banquets from Syria to southern France. But more than the money, this move is about identity. It's about pride. It's about saying to the world, we are more than our poverty. We are more than conflict. We can offer something beautiful, unique, and valuable. And Traoré is betting that the peacock, the bird once reserved for kings, could be the icon to help Burkina Faso rise from hardship into global recognition. So the question is this: do you think President Ibrahim Traoré is a bold visionary with a transformative plan? Or is this yet another example of a leader promising hope wrapped in feathers and fantasy? Please stay with us as we explore how one of Africa's youngest presidents is trying to change the fate of a nation, with the help of the most stunning bird on the planet. Burkina Faso's struggling rural economy into a self-sustaining, export-oriented engine of growth. According to Traoré, the country's farmers, long trapped in the cycles of drought, poverty, and limited market access, must break free from traditional patterns like millet and maize cultivation, and instead turn toward what he calls luxury agriculture. His vision: to turn Burkina Faso into the first African nation to industrialize and export peacock-based products at scale. And while this may sound extravagant, the market economics are surprisingly solid. Peacock feathers, with their vibrant blue-green hues and naturally hypnotic eye patterns, are in high demand globally. They're used in high-end fashion design, home decor, and artisanal crafts. In markets across Europe, the Middle East, and the United States, a single bundle of premium feathers can sell for hundreds of dollars. But it doesn't stop there. The peacock's eggs, extremely rare due to the bird's low reproductive rate, are often viewed as culinary treasures in elite circles, especially in private events hosted by the ultra-rich in Gulf states and parts of Asia. These eggs can fetch between $100 to $200 each on the open market, and in some countries, they are believed to have aphrodisiac and restorative health properties. The third and perhaps most dramatic component of this economic strategy lies in peacock meat, a luxury item historically associated with nobility in European courts. In the Middle Ages, serving a fully feathered roasted peacock at a banquet was a mark of supreme wealth and royal status. Today, that symbolism survives in private high society dinners, where peacock meat, when available, is presented not just as food, but as an experience, an edible declaration of power and exclusivity. Traoré's administration is preparing to leverage this historical and cultural allure to tap into premium export markets. But for Traoré, this isn't just a market opportunity, it's a moral imperative. He believes the farmers of Burkina Faso deserve a better future than subsistence and struggle. By encouraging villages to raise peacocks, the government aims to unlock an entirely new stream of income that bypasses the limitations of climate-sensitive crops. With initial state support for breeding, veterinary care, and export logistics, The plan is to scale from pilot farms to thousands of rural micro-enterprises. Each one would specialize in either eggs, feathers, meat, or a combination, depending on geography, access, and skill level. This is meant to decentralize wealth creation and make local economies more resilient, especially in post-conflict regions where conventional development plans have failed. But behind the economics lies something deeper: symbolism. By choosing the peacock, an animal universally recognized for its elegance and beauty, Traoré is also making a cultural statement. He's telling the world that Burkina Faso is no longer content to be seen as a forgotten corner of West Africa. Instead, it wants to be known for vision, grace, and originality. This plan, as flamboyant as it may appear, is also a calculated attempt to build a new national brand, one that blends tradition with innovation and rural dignity with global aspiration. And yet, as bold as it is, this vision comes with its own set of challenges. Raising peacocks is not like raising chickens. They require space, patience, and specialized knowledge, particularly in breeding and disease control. Critics argue that without significant infrastructure and sustained investment, the plan may burden already struggling farmers with new risks. Still, the government insists that the model farms already showing success are proof that this can scale. What's clear is that Ibrahim Traoré is not simply hoping to feed his people. He wants to elevate them, and he believes that in the shimmering tail of a peacock lies the path to a more prosperous and dignified Burkina Faso. The turning point in President Ibrahim Traoré's peacock farming initiative came not from within government buildings, but from the hearts of rural villages, where farmers who once faced daily uncertainty are now daring to dream again. In the dusty outskirts of Bobo Dioulasso, a group of young men and women stand proudly beside their hand-built peacock enclosures, watching the iridescent birds spread their wings under the harsh Sahelian sun. This is the visual climax of Traoré's vision, a vibrant contrast to the stories of hunger, displacement, and hopelessness that have long defined rural Burkina Faso. For the first time, entire communities are seeing a tangible alternative to migration or dependence on foreign aid. The mood is not just hopeful, it's electric. Across the country, agricultural cooperatives are forming. Training sessions are being held under baobab trees, and local artisans are preparing to reimagine traditional crafts using peacock feathers. The idea that prosperity can be built from something so visually stunning yet practically rare is giving new energy to regions once paralyzed by war and drought. National TV stations are running features on young peacock entrepreneurs, and social media in West Africa is awash with colorful images of these majestic birds as symbols of national rebirth. Even primary school children are drawing peacocks in their notebooks, saying they want to raise one someday. Traoré himself has visited several of these villages, walking shoulder to shoulder with farmers, shaking their hands, listening to their concerns, and promising long-term government support for feed, medicine, and market access. These moments, captured in photos and videos, have not only boosted domestic morale, but also sent a message to the international community. Burkina Faso is investing in its people with pride and originality. But while local reactions have been overwhelmingly positive, the plan has sparked sharp debates in political and economic circles abroad. In Paris and Brussels, some analysts have dismissed the idea as a distraction, too niche, too fragile, too symbolic to sustain a national economy. Western journalists have called it peacock populism, suggesting it may simply be a public relations move to cover deeper systemic issues like insurgency, governance gaps, and poverty. Yet others in development circles argue the opposite. They see it as an innovative, culturally rooted approach that doesn't wait for handouts, but instead reimagines local potential. The reactions from the African diaspora in the United States have been particularly striking. Older African Americans, many of whom remember the economic self-sufficiency movements of the 60s and 70s, have expressed admiration for Traoré's bottom-up approach. "It's about dignity," one commenter wrote on a diaspora forum, "and if dignity comes in the form of a peacock, I'm all for it." Meanwhile, younger African entrepreneurs based in Atlanta and Houston are already exploring import partnerships for Burkina feathers and artisanal decor. Still, the plan is not without its emotional undercurrents. For many Burkina citizens, especially those who have lost loved ones to extremist violence or economic hardship, this shift to something so unexpected has brought tears as much as hope. Elders speak with trembling voices about how the beauty of the peacock reminds them that even the poorest soil can produce something majestic. Mothers who once feared for their children's future are now organizing neighborhood hatching collectives, pooling resources to buy incubators and feeders. This is the moment where policy meets poetry, where national identity takes flight, not through tanks or treaties, but through color, care, and community. Traoré's vision has touched something deep in the Burkina soul, the belief that they are not destined to be forgotten, that with creativity and courage, even the most unlikely path can lead to pride and progress. And in that shared emotion lies the true power of the plan, not just in its numbers, but in its ability to make people believe again. Beyond the symbolism, beyond the feathers and economic forecasts, President Ibrahim Traoré's Peacock initiative is creating ripple effects across the civil and political fabric of Burkina Faso, effects that are slowly reshaping the country's relationship with its people, its youth, and its sense of destiny. At the grassroots level, communities that were once fractured by political instability or extremist threats are now being drawn together around a shared purpose: raising and protecting a bird that has become a metaphor for renewal. What started as a farming proposal has evolved into a civic movement. In provinces like Kosi, Tui, and Nahuri, farmers' councils are being revived with renewed energy, this time not to plead for subsidies or foreign grain, but to discuss best practices in peacock breeding, egg harvesting, and sustainable export. Local radio stations broadcast daily segments in native languages on how to improve feather quality, while youth groups, previously susceptible to recruitment by militias, are finding purpose and profit in something once unimaginable. Many of these young people are now referred to as guardians of the feathers, a term that carries both pride and responsibility. The social shift is undeniable. Where there was once resignation, there is now ambition. Women in particular are stepping into new leadership roles, forming cooperatives that specialize in egg incubation and artisanal processing of feather-based crafts. These women are earning incomes they've never seen before, sending their daughters to school, and in some cases becoming the primary breadwinners for entire households. One grandmother, interviewed by a local news crew, held up a vibrant feathered ornament and said, "This is more than a decoration. It's our future." At the political level, Traoré's administration is capitalizing on this civil enthusiasm to reposition its governance narrative. No longer just a military-led transitional government, it now presents itself as the architect of a renaissance rooted in beauty, tradition, and practical sovereignty. Government spokespersons regularly highlight the program in press briefings, citing statistics on income growth in pilot villages and reductions in rural to urban migration. This grassroots validation has bolstered Traoré's image both domestically and in parts of the African continent, where leaders are searching for new post-colonial development models. Some opposition figures have attempted to criticize the initiative, labeling it as a distraction from the nation's more urgent security concerns. But so far, their voices are struggling to gain traction, especially when compared to the real, measurable changes occurring in peacock-focused regions. Traoré, for his part, has framed the initiative not as a replacement for national security, but as a long-term antidote to the root causes of instability: poverty, idleness, and despair. By putting money in the pockets of villagers and pride in their hearts, the theory goes, Burkina Faso is making it harder for extremist ideologies to take root. International observers have noted this shift with cautious optimism. Development think tanks in Nairobi and Accra are studying the Burkina Faso model as a case study in culturally aligned economic innovation. A recent report from a Pan-African's agricultural summit even listed peacock farming alongside digital microfinance as one of the continent's top 10 people-powered solutions. In practical terms, the plan is also influencing government budgets. Funds previously allocated for emergency food imports are now being diverted into hatchery infrastructure, vet training, and export compliance systems. Ministries that rarely collaborated, such as culture, agriculture, and trade, are now working in tandem, united by a feathered vision that, oddly enough, has cut across bureaucratic silos. The broader political implication is this: Traoré is rewriting what it means to lead in modern Africa, not with firepower or empty speeches, but with bold, grounded ideas that inspire participation. He is demonstrating that innovation does not always need to be digital or imported. It can rise from within, from soil and song, from something as delicate and dazzling as a peacock. And whether this vision ultimately soars or stumbles, it has already redefined the conversation around power, possibility, and people's agency in Burkina Faso. From across the Atlantic, President Ibrahim Traoré's peacock farming campaign may seem exotic, eccentric, even symbolic, but for many Americans, especially those old enough to remember the self-reliant spirit of 20th century farming life, there's something deeply familiar in what he's trying to do. It echoes the homesteading values of growth through labor, the pride of producing something rare and meaningful with your own hands, and the belief that dignity begins in the soil. For older generations in the U.S., who lived through decades, when farming wasn't just a job but a cultural cornerstone, Traoré's model of transforming rural livelihoods through a single, high-value crop may feel oddly nostalgic. In conservative farming states from Iowa to Mississippi, where pride in agricultural independence still runs deep, some observers are quietly impressed by Traoré's ability to connect national identity with local productivity. On political forums and diaspora blogs, African Americans are discussing the plan in light of historical resilience, how a community can rise by betting on itself, even when the odds are long. Still, skepticism remains. In Washington and Brussels, foreign policy experts question whether the initiative can survive in a country still facing internal instability. Some warn that without robust institutions and transparency, the feathered dream could collapse under the weight of corruption or mismanagement. But even critics admit the plan is, at the very least, a bold attempt to do things differently, a departure from dependency models that rely on donor aid and Western consultancy firms. For multinational development agencies, Traoré's move is forcing a reassessment of what innovation really means in Africa. Does it always have to involve apps and AI? Or can it come from birds, feathers, and cultural intuition? The global market is watching closely. U.S. fashion designers already exploring ethical sourcing are eyeing Burkina Faso feathers as a potential niche commodity. Art curators are showing interest in peacock-themed decor rooted in West Africans' tradition. In a world increasingly hungry for authenticity, what once seemed ornamental may now be economically strategic. For America and the wider West, this isn't just about one country's rural revival. It's a reminder that meaningful change can still begin at the village level, with something as beautiful and unexpected as a peacock leading the "so now." We must ask ourselves, is this truly a new chapter for Burkina Faso, or just another hopeful headline in a region long promised change? President Ibrahim Traoré's peacock farming initiative has undeniably captured the world's attention, not with war or protest, but with color, beauty, and a surprisingly grounded vision of rural prosperity. Yet behind all the shimmer lies a deeper tension, one that resonates with older American audiences who have seen dreams rise and fall over generations. The question lingers: can the dignity of the land overcome the weight of political instability? Can feathers, however beautiful, lift a country where food, peace, and jobs are still not guaranteed? For those who believe in practical patriotism, the kind rooted in community effort and self-made value, Traoré's plan feels like a gamble worth taking. But the risk is real. If this model fails, it won't just be peacocks that fall. It will be the hopes of thousands who dared to believe that something elegant and native could be the key to their survival. Still, there's power in being among the first to see potential where others saw nothing. And maybe that's the real message of this story: that transformation doesn't always come with loud announcements or heavy machinery. It sometimes begins with a whisper in the fields, with a farmer gently feeding a bird that once only kings could touch. So what do you think? Do you believe that President Ibrahim Traoré's national reform strategies are truly effective yet? Or should the people of Burkina Faso place their faith in someone else to lead them forward? Can you trust a vision built on grace instead of brute force, on feathers instead of steel? These are questions not just for Africa, but for anyone who believes in rebirth, in resilience, and in the quiet strength of those who keep building even when the world isn't watching. Please share if you feel that you are one of the first to know about and support President Ibrahim Traoré. Subscribe if you believe that the truth is more important than the headlines. Because in a world crowded with noise, maybe the soft call of the peacock is exactly what we need to hear.